Meantime, as the big party is about to get underway here in Charlotte, Team Obama is finding that it is not easy, exactly, to stay on message when it comes to what has become a key question in most presidential elections. Are Americans better off than they were 4 years ago? On the Sunday talk shows this week, key members of the president's re-election effort dodged the question, and one high-profile Democrat yesterday gave an answer that may have been a little too honest. Listen here.
David, is the average American better off than 4 years ago?
Chris, as I said to you before, I think the average American recognizes that it took years to create the crisis that erupted in 2008 and peaked in January of 2009, and it's going to take some time to work through it.
Can the president argue unequivocally that Americans are better off today than they were 4 years ago?
Listen, George, I think the American people understand that we got into a terrible economic situation, a recession, that the Great Depression is the only thing the country's ever seen like it. So they know we had a deep hole. It took us a long time to get into that hole. It's going to take us a long time to get out of it.
Can you honestly say that people are better off today than they were 4 years ago?
No, but that's not the question of this election. The question, without a doubt, we are not as well off as we were before George Bush brought us the Bush job losses, the Bush recession, the Bush deficits, the series of desert wars, charged for the first time to the national credit card.
Well, that last Democrat you heard from there is the Maryland governor, Martin O'Malley. He has a key speaking role this week in Charlotte. He's a main surrogate of the Obama campaign. But apparently in the 24 hours since that Sunday show appearance, Governor O'Malley has had a change of heart. Listen to him just this morning.
We are clearly better off as a country because we're now creating jobs rather than losing them.
But you said no.
Soledad, we have not recovered all that we lost in the Bush recession. That's why we need to continue to move forward.
Don't you love politicians? Brad Blakeman is here. He's former Deputy Assistant to President George W. Bush. And Dick Harpootlian is here in Charlotte. He is chairman of South Carolina's Democratic Party. It's not North Carolina, but it's South Carolina. And welcome back to the program, both of you. So let me start with you on that, Dick. Don't you love politicians? It's like they don't care that there's videotape and that we have the tape from 24 hours earlier. Are you better off than 4 years ago? No. 24 hours later? Of course we are. I mean, I think we all know what happened in the interim, do we not?
Well, I think it's a silly season, but Megan, I think it's important to understand, and there was a little bit of, I think what all of them said was accurate, and that is that the country is better off now than it was 4 years ago. We're moving in the right direction. I think it's clear that the situation that Barack Obama inherited, 800,000 jobs a month loss, we've had positive job growth for the last 26 months. You know, this is the way I put it. When Republicans chide us about this. It's like I was in a car wreck and I was hit by a drunk driver. We'll call the drunk driver the Republican Party. Both my legs are broken. And the orthopedic surgeon that's treating me, Barack Obama, is making tremendous gains in getting me back on my feet. And the drunk driver's over there chiding him and making fun of him, saying he's not walking yet. Well, they did it. Barack Obama is fixing it, but not fast enough for Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan that don't have a plan.
Before I get to the substance of what Dick just said, Brad, can you answer my question? I mean, because the suggestion out there is that Governor O'Malley was Cory Bookered. You know, remember that Cory Booker, who came out and said he had no problem with Bain Capital, and you know that was not a good line of attack, and then 24 hours later walked it way back, and now here we see the governor doing the same thing. You tell me what happened.
What happened is he probably got a phone call from Axelrod or Plouffe who said, hey, walk it back. You got to do this right away. We can't have somebody who's such a star in the Democratic Party be so off message. But nothing was more off message than when Chris Wallace pointedly asked Axelrod, are we better off today than we were 4 years ago, yes or no? And he looked like a deer in the headlights. And the same thing with Plouffe. Look, the facts speak for themselves. During the time that Obama took office, gas was $1.80 a gallon. It's now $3.80 a gallon, the highest it's ever been on a Labor Day. The average median income was $54,000 a year. It's now $50,000 a year. The deficit was $10 trillion. It's now $16 trillion. Record foreclosures, record bankruptcies. It is what it is. Nobody believes, and it's 70% of Americans, regardless of party affiliation, believe not only is the country headed down the wrong track, but also they're not better off today than they were 4 years ago, and that's just the plain fact.
But Dick, is President Obama operating under a disadvantage, an unfair disadvantage on that whole question? Because this election cycle was a very strange one back in 2008, where the country was doing very well. We had low unemployment, we had good stats across the board in many ways, and then we met with this major financial implosion on September 15th. 2008, right before the election, and it was that explosion, implosion, however you want to put it, that then caused such a steep decline.
Well, I think you're right, Megan, that it did cause a steep decline. And Brad, this is like turning a super tanker. You don't turn it on a dime. It's going to take a while to get it turned around. And again, if you
Look,
guys,
it's time for you guys to abandon ship. You are running us. I'm going to use your line. You've run us into the ditch.
No, you in the Bush White House and the Romney campaign merely want to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. We want to steer it, this ship of state, if you will, in the right direction. And Mitt Romney, what's his plan? Where is he going to get the revenue from? He's got it in a lockbox with his money in Switzerland and the Caymans. We don't know, and he won't say.
Let me tell you how you create revenue. You don't give money to the government to create jobs. You give money to the people to create jobs, and that's the difference. We believe in the velocity of money. Every time a dollar changes hands amongst the individual population is what gins up more money for the Treasury. It's not us sending money to the government.
Let me jump in and ask you that same question, Brad. Is it fair to say, as a metric of whether President Obama deserves re-election, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Let's say John McCain had won that election and took office in January 2009. You think he'd be able to answer the question, are you better off now, yes, than you were 4 years ago? We had such a huge meltdown, and it happened just before the president took office, and he entered in the thick of it.
I think we would have been in much better shape, and here's why. We wouldn't have been ruling out of ideology. We'd be ruling out of reality. We wouldn't have created a crisis on health care when we had an honest-to-goodness crisis on the economy. And I believe John McCain would have attacked that which needed to be fixed, and that's the economy. And let me tell you another thing. We wouldn't have been spending $800 billion in stimulus money that went to the unions as a reward for them supporting this president. There's a fundamental difference in what Republicans believe and what Democrats believe, and that is we believe in the power in the individual. They believe in the power of government. They've grown government to the detriment of the general economy.
All right, guys.
Megan,
Quickly,
just want to say this real quickly. Government jobs have shrunk under the Obama administration. The huge increase in jobs has come in the private sector. Brad, get your facts right.
Nonsense. We're at 8.3% unemployment. 23 million people are out of work.
I really got to run. Brad mentions the unions, and we have a union segment coming up right after this break. So goodbye to you. Thank you both. I'm going to go down and see Dick after the show. That ought to be interesting. Won't it?